Sure. Talking the main event, Dan Henderson versus Vitor Belfort, obviously the third time they've met. I got to think that this fight is going to start off a little bit slower than some people may anticipate. I think, Vitor training with his longtime karate coach, he's going to focus a lot on range. He's going to focus a lot on distance. And, even in the last fight, he kind of waited on the over-aggression of Dan Henderson and caught him. When he got a little too aggressive, he was going backwards, and that's when Vitor was able to catch him. And I think that's what he's going to look for as well. And at the same time, Dan may be a little bit more apprehensive as well. He made that mistake the last fight. He's not going to want to go rushing in. After watching the Weidman fight, he may even want to take Vitor Belfort down. You never know. Now, Vitor's very tricky off his back, as we know. Almost armbar John Jones. But I really think that this fight, being a 5-round fight, but round one, the first couple of minutes, is going to be two guys really feeling each other out a little bit. I think they both respect each other's weapons, and it's going to take a couple of minutes for really to develop. And then the big key with Dan Henderson is not being predictable. Right? A lot of guys go in there expecting the overhand right, and we see sometimes Dan goes into that fight and he's just looking for it. He stalks, and as soon as he gets the timing, he throws it. And when you're throwing that overhand right against a southpaw like Vitor, your body's more open to see that punch coming. So that overhand right is more noticeable. It's easier to dodge it. It's easier to be away from it. Whereas if you're a right-handed fighter and a guy throws that overhand right, it can slip out of your periphery and catch you in between your hand and your shoulder. So I think it's a little bit more advantageous for Vitor being a southpaw going against Dan Henderson's main weapon. And so for Dan, when Dan's always most effective with his power, in my opinion, is when he throws combinations. When he mixes in his jab, he throws some of those leg kicks, throws some of the body kicks, but puts the punches together. And then you see him not only knock guys out with that overhand right, but then he follows up with a monster left hook as well. He's the kind of guy with power. I've trained with him and been in the room where Dan's actually knocked a guy out who was trying to take him down. Dan was sprawling, hit a guy with a right hand one time, and the guy got knocked out. That's how powerful he is. With Vitor, he's got to learn from the Tim Boetsch fight and see what happens. Dan has power backing up. If you force the action against Dan and don't maintain the proper range and distance, you can get knocked out as well. So I expect seeing Vitor come out, throw some kicks, set his range up, force a mistake. Vitor really has shown over the last couple of years a lot more diversity in his striking. He goes to the body very well, mixes in the kicks very well. He's much more flexible than I thought he would be years ago with some of his kicks, spinning heel kicks, high kicks, all that stuff. So he's got to mix that up well, but not get inside with Dan, because inside I think that's advantage Dan Henderson, both from a wrestling perspective and from a punching power perspective. Looking at the co-main event, you've got two guys who I believe are coming off very, very solid performances. Glover Teixeira's win over Ovince St. Preux was fantastic. His execution was outstanding. The first round, he took a bit of a beating from OSP, as you would expect. OSP's a great athlete, the younger, the faster guy. Glover fought that fight so smart, rolled with the punch as well. Where he saw his opportunities to wrestle, he did so, wore down OSP, took his openings when he's on the feet, and I expect to see a very cerebral Glover Teixeira in this fight as well. Talking to his coaches, that's been a big emphasis. Being a very smart fighter, taking what your opponent gives you, forcing your opponent to make mistakes. Don't just go in there looking to knock someone out. Don't just go in there looking for a takedown necessarily. Put it all together and see what Patrick Cummins gives you. And I think that's what we could expect from Glover. Coming off one of the smartest fights, most complete fights to date for him, I'd expect the same thing against Cummins. He's going to want to avoid the takedown, maybe off of the sprawl spin, take his back, control him on the ground that way. Force Cummins to stand with him a little bit, put that power on him. For Cummins, on the flip side, he's coming off his best performance to date. When he fought Fejao Cavalcante, we expect the takedowns from Cummins. We expect some good ground and pound. We've never seen it as violent as it was in that fight. He's starting to really grow and explode in certain positions and learn, hey, even in half guard, I could still throw power here and not be threatened by the guy getting back to his feet or have the threat of a sweep or a submission. We saw his ability to control the world-class grappler when Cummins defeated Antonio Carlos Jr. And Antonio Carlos Jr.'s got one of the best guard games going in the heavier weight classes, and Cummins completely neutralized him. But he wasn't able to generate as much power with his ground and pound because he wasn't as comfortable there. He is now. And if he can get Glover on his back, he can do damage. He can do fight-finishing damage. And Cummins is coming into this fight very, very confident, despite taking on a guy with much, much more experience than him. So really excited to see that matchup, because it's two guys coming off what I believe are two of the better performances of their career. Definitely for Cummins. Glover obviously has a longer career. And then, this undercard is stacked with young guys who have the potential to be contenders. You've got Anthony Burchak taking on Thomas Almeida. Thomas is a kid that everybody's watched come on. When they think of Almeida, they think of violence. I mean, this kid is a finisher. He's aggressive. I mean, even when I was talking to him over here at a table, he looked like he wanted to jump across it and get into a fight, even in his nice new suit. And he really takes it serious, the lineage and the heritage of his gym and his team at Shoot Box. He looks at the pioneers of that gym, and he wants to be just like him. He wants to be the guy that Brazilian fans and fans across the world can count on to put on a show. On the flip side, Burchak really feels and sees things that he believes are vulnerabilities. He sees openings. He sees a lot of things in this fight that he can capitalize on, and that excites him. He likes being the underdog here. He likes being the guy taking on the golden boy, who everybody wants to promote. When you get two guys like that, one who really wants to showcase his aggression, the other guy's got a chip on his shoulder, that normally makes for a great, fun fight to watch. Lots of transitions, lots of position switches, lots of good punches, guys having recovered from being hurt, but I wouldn't bet on that one going the distance. Another one I really like, Gilbert Burns and Rashid Magomedov. I like that fight a lot. Magomedov told me the area he's improved in the most is being calm in the octagon, which is, anybody's watched a bunch of his fights, the last thing you would think he needed to improve on is being calm. But when I talk to guys at American Top Team about this kid, just how good he is, and they give me the roster of guys that struggle with him in the gym, it's impressive. Both of these guys have the capability to contend for the title in that weight class. And I think Gilbert really learned a lot from his last fight with Alex Oliveira, where he had trouble with distance on the feet. He had trouble putting his combinations together. He had trouble, because of that distance, getting the takedowns that he wanted. But he found a way, right? He found a way in the end, and he showed if he gets you on the ground, whatever limb he wants, he's going to take from you. So that's where this thing gets interesting. If he can get Magomedov to the ground, we know who has the advantage there. That's a massive if, though, because Magomedov's got great takedown defense. Talking to Gilbert Burns' coaches, they really feel good about his combinations and his striking ability. They feel good that he's had some time since his last fight to grow there, and they want him to be more aggressive in this fight. They want him to put his combinations together, put volume, because obviously Magomedov, the biggest weakness he has is he sits back a little too much. He's more of a counter striker, and when you're more of a counter striker, you can get beat based on offensive output alone. We've seen that with judges before, and Magomedov's got to be careful. You can't always just look for the perfect punch. You've got to be mindful of your offensive output, your aggression in that octagon, and what kind of toll it may take on the decision of those judges.